We are experienced hikers on a weekend trip. One of our friends just disappeared without a trace.
DisastrousInvolvedI.
Disclaimer: the content presented in this video is purely fictional and intended for entertainment purposes only.
He's gone. I startle awake, elbow forcefully jamming into Chris' side as I steal him from his sleep. It was around 7 a.m. when I heard him outside his tent, pacing about on the dry leaves. The noise stopped a short while later. It is now 8:30 a.m. Any traces of Richard, his tent, or supplies have disappeared. What? What do you mean? Chris blinked, groggily. He squinted as his face emerged from the sleeping bag. Richard's left. He's gone. Where the fuck is he? I start scrambling, pulling at the zips on my sleeping bag as I get into a crouching position to leave the tent. The forest floor is untouched. Any traces of Richard have been scrubbed from its memory, masked in a thick layer of auburn leaves. How long has he been gone? Can't have been more than an hour. Is he taking a piss? Chris asks, dismissively. No, like he's fucking gone and left. He's taken his tent down and disappeared. I guffaw in disbelief. This startles him into a sense of alert. No, you're joking. Where's he gone? Chris' head peers over my shoulder into the clearing. He's honestly taking the piss. What the fuck's he gotten up to? I get out of the tent and into an upright position, my joints creaking as I take a few steps to examine the clearing and the nearby woods for any signs of Richard. A neat patchwork of pine trees envelopes the surroundings. At certain angles I can see between the long promenades of trees, forming into straight rows to provide a narrow view of the distance, but this doesn't help much. This isn't like him. We're 12 years into these hiking trips and not once has he ever strayed so much as a few feet from the group. We are all very much team players and rely on group consensus for any important decisions. My stomach exudes a feeling of discomfort and unease. Did he tell us he was leaving? I honestly don't remember. I clamber back into the tent and over Chris, rummaging through the rucksack until my hands grasp a cold metallic slab. I take my phone and re-enter the clearing, raising it endpoint towards the sky as if offering it up to some unseen deity. No signal. I swear I had at least 2 bars last night. We set up camp here because it's the first place for miles that I received any notifications. I meant to give Jane a message to let her know we were okay. Shit, I'll have to call her when I get the chance. Chris' eyes widen and he starts moving with urgency, heading back towards the tent. He pulls out a waterproof jacket and fumbles through the pockets for his phone. I was going to show you how these worked, but I got some of those trackers a few months ago. Because of the bag and shit we lost last time, I thought we could put these on all our stuff. Chris' explanations were muddled under the weight of his intense concentration. He stares, unblinking at his phone, hands shaking slightly as he opens and closes apps until he finds the right one. I think I put 2 in Rich's bag thinking it was mine. I couldn't find them in my rucksack last night. I don't respond, as if not to break the spell of this alchemist working unearthly magic to return our friend. Here, he exclaims with some confidence, presenting me with phone screen. I see a map. Barely a map, more a large, deep green plane with very few details. But I notice some pinpoints, in 2 bunches at top and bottom of the display. Chris gestures to the bottom group. This is us, I think, and the ones up there are the ones Rich has got. He taps the screen and we zoom in on the ones we think to be Richard's. There's no way I retort. That's 22 miles away. He's been gone a fucking hour. How did he get 22 miles away? Do we even know what direction that's in? Mate, I don't know. Chris lets out a nervous chuckle to break the tension. But it's GPS and it says 5 minutes ago. He swipes the screen to refresh, the pinpoints shuffle slightly further up the screen as the time now reads 60 seconds ago. I mean, he is a runner. Maybe he went full pelt over there. Chris smirks and looks for my validation. That's insane, I spit back, exasperated. He can't have gone that far. That's fucking ridiculous. Did someone give him a lift? I sense my mocking tone cutting at Chris, so I reel it in and collect myself. How accurate are these? Is it still tracking him? Chris doesn't respond. Instead, tilting the phone screen in my direction so I can verify it for myself, he's taken his shit, and he's headed off in that direction. Chris gestures through the dense thatch of trees. We plan to be out here for 3 nights, so we can get to him by this evening, and head back in the morning. We'll be aight. Is he still moving? I ask. I resign myself the premises of this situation and start prodding at the feasibility of Chris' plan. Looks like he's settled for now, Chris replies. When we get signal, we'll give him a call or something and ask him to head back towards us. He's probably lost though, how's he going to make his way back? Look, once we speak with him we can sort this out. Unless he's gone absolutely fucking mental, we can get him to head back and meet us somewhere. It's about 9 AM now, we could make it by 4ish if we head off now. Without waiting for my agreement, Chris reaches for his rucksack and starts fixing it on his back. I do the same. I feel a tightness in my stomach, an unease which seeps into my bones. I think of Jane and I sweep the sky for phone signal in one last Hail Mary attempt. No luck. I follow Chris' lead and fasten my rucksack on tight. We head off into the woods in search of Richard. The forest becomes thicker as we journey forward. We are slowed by the tangle of dead branches and shallow roots. Carefully I watch where I step, and I feel a creeping pain in my neck from holding it at such an uncomfortable angle. The cacophony of bugs and insects ring just slightly louder than my tinnitus. We travel in silence for a large part of the journey. When we do speak, we focus entirely on logistics. Chris keeps his eyes fixed on the way forward, only interrupted by brief glances at his phone to ensure the path ahead is correct. We have missed our deadline by a good few hours, but Richard doesn't seem to have moved in that time. The pinpoints show his location is unchanged, with only slight shifts left and right, as if he's swaying in some drunken stupor. At least it gives us confidence that the tags are still on his person. I clench my fists as I resist the urge to scratch the bug bites covering my forearms and shins. Shaking sweat from my hands. I get flashes of discomfort when I feel my clothes sticking to me, and the aches and pains of having walked nearly 20 miles. The GPS and our exhaustion are the only indicators that we have made progress. The scenery remains entirely monolithic. The sun starts to set as we close in on Richard. We start calling out his name, softly at first, as if too loud a sound would anger the forest. With confidence growing and distance narrowing, we shout for him. Sweat and spittle rain from my face as the last of my energy is spent demanding his attention. No response. The night robs us of the ability to see more than a few dozen feet in front of us. So, I listen. Hearing only the footsteps of Chris and myself. The insects grow louder, but so does the gentle patter of running water, as if by some break in the fabric of reality, the forest suddenly and unexpectedly ceases in front of us. We come to a large clearing, about the length of a football pitch. The forest still dominates the surroundings, lining the other side of the clearing as it stretches for countless miles further. But the clearing is wide, reaching far beyond my field of vision. The dense undergrowth has given way to soft grass, trees replaced by wild bushes no more than a foot high. A river runs through the clearing, cutting straight through the middle. The jagged rocks on the riverbed cut ripples into the water's surface. It's jet black and viscous, harshly reflecting the moonlight off its inky surface. In front of us, the river forks and rejoins not much further down, forming an elliptical island in the middle. A large oak tree with a wide base and mighty trunk has taken root defiantly in the middle of the island, alone. It stands large and squat against the backdrop of imposing pine trees, noticeably conspicuous the abrupt clearing. I grab Chris' hand to turn the phone towards me. All it shows is the same deep green forest we have spent our day conquering. No clearing, no stream, nothing. Richard's there. He's by the tree. Oh my fucking god. I feel the energy surging back into my muscles as I sprint towards the riverbank, now screaming his name. My throat burning. Chris takes only a moment to catch, and he's there running alongside me, flailing his arms as if stranded at sea. I take about 3 steps into the water before the cold hits me. Compared to the warmth of the day, the water feels icy and hostile. I flinch and retreat a few steps back towards the riverbank. I use this opportunity to get a better look at Richard. All I can make out is his silhouette, standing motionless to the left of the tree. His face is completely obscured by shadows. I can't tell if he's facing towards or away from us. The lights of our headlamps dissipate before reaching the island. Chris is continuing to shout Richard's name, punctuated by a few "What the fuck are you doing?" S and "How the fuck did you get there?" S. But Richard just remains. Motionless, bathed in dark, as if dissolving into the vast expanse of the forest behind him, I jerk my body around to find my rucksack laying at the edge of the clearing. I must have shed it when we started running. Chris doesn't wading into the waist-high water without a second thought. He lets out a few pained grunts as the water envelopes his torso and stomach. His arms ride abreast the water, and he glides slowly through towards Richard. I'm not far behind him, dragging my rucksack into the water and clenching my teeth as I brace for the first few steps in. We make our way through the water as the current suddenly picks up. I see Chris bowled over by the sudden force. I brace myself against the current, feeling it surging through me with a tremendous rush of power. A strap of my rucksack is tied around my hand as to not lose it, but I'm pulled off balance by the force on the bag. My head becomes submerged as I'm dragged downstream by my wrist. I dig my heels in and pull back against the force, twisting my neck round to gasp for breath. Richard is watching me from beneath the tree. After a moment, I have my head out of the water and my feet firmly planted on the ground. The current has dissipated. I examine the surroundings and find that I have only drifted a few feet off course. Chris is not too far away. The adrenaline dissipates, leaving me defenseless against the bitter cold. Wading over, I notice Chris' attention is fixed elsewhere. Hey, where did Richard go? Chris asks sharply between harsh draws of breath. Did you see him? I swear he was here just now. I stop for breath and confirm for myself that, yes, you're right, he's not here, he has simply disappeared like he did before. Of course he did. I don't even flinch at these embers of hope slipping through my fingers, I just focus on pulling myself towards the island. We reach the slight stretch of land, now uninhabited. My bones slowly defrost from the water, teeth chattering. I click my headlamp on to confirm, no footprints, no disturbance of any kind. The river returns to a quiet trickle of water. This is fucked. Where the fuck are we? Chris panics, pulling his phone out his pocket and shaking off water droplets. I can't feel my bloody fingers, he moans as he locks himself out. I release his phone from his grip to wipe the remaining water off on the grass and punch in his passcode. It's here, where's the bag? I search frantically, looking for a rucksack or a coat or something scattered on the ground. The phone says the trackers are still here, even if Richard is not. Where the fuck has he gone? Chris whispers harshly for my attention, as if not to catch the attention of a nearby predator. His eyes are red and watery in the torchlight. I cannot give him any answers. That could not have been him, that was not fucking him, we're fucked. Still, I remain silent. I push that pit in my stomach deep down, back into hell. Instead, I reach for my phone and raise it aloft. Still nothing. Fuck sake. Nothing has come through in the past day. No one knows where we are. We've only been gone a day and a half. Jane is still at the cabin and is not expecting us back until at least Monday evening. We're 22 miles off track and one man down. Our reputation for disappearing for days at a time has proven to be a sore irony, right? I assert with all the authority I can muster. Let's cut our losses, get the fuck away from here and set up camp somewhere. We'll head back as far as we can tomorrow, and if I get any phone signal I'll call for a rescue team or something. I attempt to instill a confidence in Chris which is not particularly well founded. There's no signal anywhere. This place isn't even on the fucking map. Like I said, we're leaving here. We're not staying. We'll set up camp about a mile away and we should get back just alright. I spit with righteous indignation, but we can't just leave Rich, like we can't just leave him lost out here. He's fucking somewhere, right? Chris pleads with an uncharacteristic meekness. Well, that's his own fucking fault, isn't it? The comment lingers in the air, stinging my mouth with its vitriol. We wait in silence for a moment before I turn to head back. My torch catches the base of the tree. I turn back to illuminate the trunk where I scan upwards towards the top, resting about head height. I stare at the carvings etched into the wood. Carefully sculpted are angular, geometric shapes, in rows running from top to bottom. I graze my fingers along them, recognizing them to be Norse runes. Up and down, they have been carefully transcribed. I rub my fingertips together, examining the deep red coating they've been gifted. The metallic smell confirms that it is blood. I examine the tree again and the entire face of the trunk has been haphazardly smeared in the same deep red. A sense of realization washes over me. This must be why Richard brought us here. Chris shuffles over, his blind panic now subsiding into a sense of calm. I know it, these are symbols of protection. They bring fortune and good luck to those who happen upon them. Chris eyes them up and down in silence. We both breathe calmness into our lungs. I retrieve my rucksack from the riverbed and carefully dig through it. I unsheath the kitchen knife and bring it back to the tree. Scanning the bark for any signs of instruction, I rub more blood onto my fingers and examine it closely. It appears that the blood fixes a connection of some kind between the donor and the runes, endowing the traveler with good omens. Chris, unspeaking, presents me with his palm. I look to him for approval before firmly pressing into it and slicing through the center, just above his thumb and across his heart line. He doesn't react. I present mine to him and do the same, digging in to ensure a decent amount of blood. A sense of warmth grows from my hand, up my forearm and into my body. I inhale deeply and hold the moment in my mind. Taking his hand with mine, we press them together, squeezing them with my other hand to strengthen the bond. We both reach for the tree and smear our own deep red paint over the runes. I scan over the markings again and recognize some of them. Protection, love, good health. Yes. This is what we need. We are out here, in the apathy and brutality of wilderness. These omens will protect us from whatever is lurking. Chris is smiling with his eyes, he knows it just like I do. I reach over and caress his face, smearing a line of blood across his forehead. I turn to study the runes. One calls out to me with an aura of love. Algis, protection. Of course, I clutch the knife and raise it to his forehead, delicately, but decisively carving the rune into his skin. He doesn't flinch, holding the same euphoric expression but now grinning ear to ear. The job only takes a moment and, once finished, I wipe the drops of blood across his face and cheeks. I pass him the knife and lean forward in excited anticipation. He carves Saulo, son, into my forehead. Pure ecstasy. We are both overcome with awe at our good fortune. Richard has led us here to bring us out of the forests and into the light, back to our friends and family, waiting for us with open arms. I feel the ground vibrate, shifting beneath our feet. We startle and step back. The ground gives way to a hole at the base of the tree. We pause for a moment as I peer into the newly formed chasm. It has opened up a tunnel into the earth, fit for man, stretching deep into blackness, curving underneath the tree and out of sight. Chris is staring deep into me. We share an unspoken knowledge of what we must do. Chris once again presents me with his hand. Face up towards the blackened sky. I rest it in mine and press the knife down into the first joint of his forefinger. It snaps with a satisfying cleanness. Chris stares at his palm with quiet solemnity. I move to the next finger and repeat the process. Crack. Just as pure as the first. One by one, each finger is severed at the first joint. I coddle the severed pieces in my hand with the care of rosary beads. He leans forward, eyes closed, as I gently place one of them in his mouth. The rest are tossed down the hole with a quiet murmur of prayer. He shuts his lips tight and holds it there, savoring the sensation in deep meditation. Chris opens his eyes to take me in one final time. We share a look of knowing. His features betray the joy he is hiding. He is truly at peace. Without a sound, Chris slips into the hole beneath the tree, arms raised above his head to ease his descent. He vanishes into the abyss below without a single word. I remain on the overworld, now truly alone. I raise my hand in the same ritual fashion and bring a knife to my forefinger and begin pressing down. A pain shoots through me. Not from my hand, but my face. I stagger backwards and clutch my jaw with both hands, dropping the knife. Tears rush down my cheeks as my facial muscles convulse. I've been screaming for a long time. My throat is red hot, torn to shreds. I look at my hands. I look at the tree, I look at the hole. I kneel over it on all fours and scream with all the strength I can muster. Chris. Chris. I wail with a hoarseness that betrays my sheer panic. I shoot up to my feet and whip my head around to catch a sign of anything watching. The forest lies silent. Scrambling with reckless urgency, I head for water and start paddling. The cold is irrelevant in the face of the pain coursing through my face and hands. I pull the water past me and clamber for the riverbed. I don't dare turn back to face what may be waiting for me. Instead, I head back into the forest and running faster than I ever thought capable of. The wind brings me back around before the aching of my limbs sets in. I startle awake, fully clothed, sprawled out at the base of a tree. Dense forest surrounds me. The sun peers through the canopy as morning sets in. Frantically patting my pockets, I feel for my phone and nothing else. The woods are silent, no insects, no footsteps, just the faint sound of wind brushing past my ears. I let out a guttural, full-bodied scream for what feels like hours. Nothing. I can taste dryness in my mouth, but that discomfort pales in comparison to the ruthless beating the rest of my body is reeling from. Before my mind can begin processing it, my body starts moving. I'm pulled out of my fatigue by a primal thirst for survival. Stumbling through the forest, I push against the tree trunks to steady my balance and propel me forwards. I don't know where I'm going. Thoughts of Chris and Richard hammer at the door of my mind as uninvited guests, demanding an audience. Their images don't bring me tears, but stress. I need to help myself first, then I can help them. Licking my wounds out in the arse end of nowhere isn't going to bring a rescue party. I swipe my thumb over the jagged shards of my phone screen and enter the passcode. I open maps and hold it arm's length in front of me, squinting into the dimmed light for a glimpse of my lifeline. No signal, but GPS is working fine. Deep green smear enveloping face of the phone, no details whatsoever. Fine, whatever. I can tell north from south like a tit from an arse now. I swivel on my heels, face southeast, and keep walking. After, I'm not sure how long, I find myself led to another clearing. The scenery breaks as abruptly as before, but now, I'm high up on a cliffside. Probably about 100-200 feet below me is a sheer drop. An uninviting tangle of stone and fate beckons from the base of the cliff. From there the forest wrestles back control and sprawls endlessly in every direction beyond the horizon. Tears of stress concentrate in my eyes. Where the fuck did this come from? The forest has been nothing but a flat, uninterrupted plain for the entire trip, and now I'm standing a few hundred feet in the air? I've not seen a single hill this entire trip. What the fuck is this? I pause to collect myself and decide on the play. Like the river, the cliff face stretches for miles on each end, a fault line in the earth splitting the world into two halves. This is the way forward. The map proves aggravatingly useless, yet again at providing me with routes, or alternatives, or anything fucking helpful in the slightest. My heart jumps and I almost drop the phone down the cliffside. The vibration sends tremors up my arm and my entire body into alert. Jane is calling. I stare dumbly at the screen for a beyond reasonable length of time. No emotions penetrate the fortress of my concentration as I raise the phone to my ear. Ed? She asks sheepishly. Honey? Oh my God. I am so glad to hear your voice. Relief washes over me as her voice lights a warm glow of hope. Where the fuck have you gone? Her fury is palpable. The brief flicker of hope has been extinguished and my soul hollowed out. I've been worrying nonstop for the past 3 nights. Becky is worried. The kids are worried. Is Chris with you? What the fuck were you thinking? I gasp to interrupt, but Jane only builds momentum. You left in the dead of night. 2 in the fucking morning. I called the police, they've been searching for the past 2 days. What the fuck do I tell the kids? A headache burns from my forehead as I stammer a response to stem the tide of anger and accusation. We went hiking, it wasn't. No fucking shit, you went hiking, you took everything. Where have the kitchen knives gone? Becky was crying. The kids are terrified. What the fuck are you doing? My jaw hangs agape, defenseless against the pain of her scorn. I don't know, I'm sorry. But we lost Richard, he went off and we had to. Who the fuck is Richard? She screams, her volume reaching a fever pitch. I have to pull the phone away from my ear. What the fuck are you talking about? Who is Richard? I start to feel faint and stagger backwards, clutching at my stomach as I resist the urge to throw up. He came with us on the trip and we lost him and we went to find him, but Chris. I breathlessly scramble for an explanation. What? Who is this? How the fuck did you end up in the middle of the forest with some random stranger? Where is Chris? Is he with you? No, he's gone. Jane screams in complete hysteria. What do you mean he's gone? What's happening? My hands are trembling, and my mind is vacant. Me and Chris and Richard, we were camping in the... We were looking for... He got lost in the woods, so we started looking because the phone... Just... Please, my voice trails off as I hear sobbing down the other end of the phone. Jane's anger has subsided into meek, desperate pleading for answers. Ed, where are you? Can you tell me where you are? We're lost. I'm lost. I don't know where Chris is. At this point, I am spent. All I need is the confirmation of my worst suspicions. Me, Richard, and Chris left on Friday afternoon and walked about 10 miles into the forest and set up camp. I enunciate each of the details for my own sake as much as hers. It feels like a lie told to myself over and over until I'm convinced it's truth. Ed, you're really scaring me. Who is Richard? We don't know a Richard. We're in the middle of nowhere. How did you meet him? I fall silent at the weight of this question. I hang up, message my location, and put the phone down. I'm lost. Truly and definitively lost. For how long now I do not know. The tethers of reality I clung to have only served to drag me further in. I sit in silt and mud, reeling in the weight of the conversation. I've been lost for a long while. How many of us were there? How many of us were there ever on these trips? Was it 3 or just 2, or 4, or 7.5? Could there have been loads of us in a naked orgy for all I know, or was I just wanking myself off in the wilderness for a long weekend? Richard and I were groomsmen for Chris and Becky's wedding. We were at university together. He had been out with us every fucking year since we started hiking. What the fuck was she on about? I sit with these thoughts for a while and come to no conclusions. Hugging my knees to my chest, the stress boils over into floods of tears. I wipe my face, gaze at the beauty of the forest. From this vantage point, the true might of nature is at full display. Shades of green and black stand defiantly against the amber and gold of the setting sun. A perfect balance of all life, endless space, and creation. From here I am gliding over it, stealing a view reserved only for the birds and the gods. I drift through the next few hours like a ghost amongst the living. The sun has long since set, and seeing anything more than a few feet away is impossible now. Not that it matters really. I tread, arms outstretched, stumbling through the overgrowth, feeling my way through the trees. There's nothing left but to move. Even the wind has ceased caressing my ears with its soft whistling. The silence engulfs me in its firm embrace. Keep going. I tread aimlessly through the forest with only the faintest memory or care for directions. Keep going. Go on, lad, keep moving. That's it, steady on. You're almost there. You're on the way home, lad. I can feel it in the distance. You're doing it. You're going. Oh my God, you're going to get home. Bravo, my son. Keep pushing. Keep pushing. You're almost there. You're almost fucking home. You're here, you're here. I see a gentle light through the trees. A red hue bathes the far side of the trees in long streaks of overgrowth. Like a moth, I single-mindedly fall towards it, transfixed. It grows brighter, but I don't squint. In the forest, nestled in a small clearing, no more than a few meters wide, is Richard's tent. The soft torchlight glows from inside, dyed a warm red by its canvas walls, illuminating in all directions the blackness of the forest. It sits peacefully amongst the trees, a promise of comfort in a hostile world. Home, I glide towards the tent, my feet no longer burdened by the traps and snares of the forest floor. My hand strokes the canvas, dispensing fragments of dried blood along its side. I inhale the warmth into my lungs. Crouching down, I reach around the left-hand side of the tent and gently tug on the zipper. It softly purrs as I trace the semicircle of the opening. The canvas door falls away and grants me entry. Everything in here is Richard's, neatly folded and arranged around the floor of the tent. LED lights emit a soft glow, twisted around the tent poles and suspended in the air like fireflies. Richard's books and glasses sit patiently to the right of the tent, next to a flask of coffee and a cigarette. This is a man whom I understand with all my being. 2 sleeping bags lay neatly in the center. Chris is there, sleeping soundly on the floor. A soft happiness fills my body. Chris' chest isn't rising, but he looks peaceful. His eyes are closed, and a satisfied grin decorates his face. I lean closer towards him. He smells wonderful. His hands feel cold to the touch as I rub the stubs of his fingers. Facing away, I lay down next to him, curling into a slight fetal position to allow him to spoon my body. I snuggle my back into his chest as to warm him with my life. Footsteps, emerging from the forest, move towards the tent, and a shadow appears against the canvas. It stretches high up the walls, either impossibly large or uncomfortably close. It begins circling us, with the crackling of dry leaves announcing every step. The shadow is joined by a second, entering into the parade around the tent. They clap and click in quiet rhythm. Slow and soft at first, the sound swells with confidence as another pair of hands join the ensemble. The shadows are accompanied by yet another which begins murmuring under its breath, clicking in counterpoint to the rest. I lay there in Chris' embrace, watching in quiet contemplation as the performance unfolds. This rhythmic cacophony grows as drums, claps, snaps, shouts, and jeers form a rich tapestry of celebration outside. The shuffling of feet creates viscous white noise as at least a dozen bodies circle the tent. They all chant in unison a song, an ancient song. It spins me into a psychedelic ecstasy as I mouth the words along with them, failing to produce any sound. I lie there, unblinking, as a pool of spit forms on the ground beneath my mouth. Chris reaches over to my shoulder and wraps his arm around me. I warm his flesh with my love for all things. My eyes close as I become one with this moment. The tent unzips and I feel something pulling at the floor. It steps inside and I am greeted with warm understanding throughout my body. Saying nothing, seeing nothing, I know it is Richard. My chest raises unevenly as I draw breath with excitement. He lays down in front of me and I hold him, trembling, the same way Chris is holding me. From the way he feels, I can tell he is longer, but I don't open my eyes. The crowd grows louder in frenetic jubilation. I feel the heat emanating from Richard and his moisture coats my face, hands, and clothes. We lay here, together, in the center of this world. This is truly the home I was seeking. I need no sound, no sight, no feeling. Just the knowledge that I will be held here in this space, entwined in the friendship of my greatest companions. Forever.
Until next time, subscribe to stay up to date with all updates. No screamers or shocking moments, only comfort and safety. Bye.